Okay, so this is going to be a basic overview of the dimension standards that we use in our department at our college. So this is for anybody who's currently in my class, but also any of our juniors and seniors who need a refresher on that. I realize you're not all going to necessarily have access to the PDF I'm going to show you, but if you need it, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. So those of you who are currently in my class or can still access your Moodle from ISD 220, we're going to do a scroll down to where it says Project 1, Small House, and you're going to have Dimension House Example. So I'm just going to kind of verbally go over this for a few minutes. So the kind of challenging thing for us is the textbook that we use pretty much for a lot of our classes. That person actually uses several different types of dimensioning. It's not wrong. You're going to do it differently for different needs and different like industries like architecture and engineering versus interior design. So again, there wasn't a really good template in our books to use. So I created this from a floor plan I have, and I'm going to kind of talk us through it, basically going from like the outside in. Oops, hold on. There we can zoom in there, move it down a little bit. All right, so if you look up here at the top, this first one is called basically an overall. So your outermost dimension. So like here it's here on the top, here it's on the far left, for here it's on the far right. That will be for us for interiors. You're going to go from the inside corner of the wall to the other inside corner of the wall, and then you're going to have the overall here on the top. We also like to include the thickness of the walls. It just makes it look more finished. You may see some examples that I'll bring in for my own work. The firm that I work at, we tend to not do that because we're measuring the inside of existing houses. We're not sure how thick the walls are, to be honest. So we're not kind of like setting ourselves up for misinformation with that, basically. But when you're doing a plan that you're drawing for us in our class projects, we're going to have you do that. So you can see up here that it's 6-inch walls over here. So there's the overall and then the thickness of the wall at each end. So it's over here too. It's on the left and right side. If we scroll kind of back and forth, you can see it down here. All right, so let me zoom back in over on this one here. All right, so the next line in, so the second one in, is going to be the thickness of your rooms or the width of your room. Sorry, so you're going to go from, again, corner of the room to corner of the room. That's at 11 feet. This 5 feet, 3.5 inches, that's the width of this bathroom. Then there's the 10 feet roughly over here for this room. This room's dimension, again, from corner to corner, is 22 inches. Now, the innermost line is wherever you have anything, basically openings in your exterior wall, so your windows and your doors. So, and again, we're going from the very corner, so I'll zoom in. We're going the very corner of the room to, for windows, it's right here. It's that edge before you see that little rectangle. So that's the width of the window. Then you're going from that width of the window there to, again, the corner of the room. Then you can see where we've got the thickness of the wall again here. And then over here, same thing, corner of the room to edge of the window. Keep going. Same thing over here. Let me find one where there's an exterior door. We'll just kind of zoom. Oh, okay, over here. So this is a good example. So doors, this guy's a little trickier. It's not the best example. Let's see. I will show you on when we do it in CAD, because this is one, again, I did for my job. So we were doing it for the opening here. So you're going to work your way all the way around whatever building you're working on. Like I said, my brain likes to work from the biggest number, this top layer, and then kind of work my way in detail wise. You may want to do the reverse. You might want to start on this first layer, and you're going to kind of move your way across and get all those details. Whatever works for your brain. There's no right or wrong in terms of the order that you do these in, but this is how you're going to nest them. You're always going to have the biggest number, basically the overall dimension here on the very top. Then the inside is going to be the room, and then the closest to your walls is going to be these details. So print that out, have that available for you, or have it up online. I'm going to now jump over to CAD. We're going to look at that instead now. All right, so here's an example floor plan for what we do for our first project in CAD. I'm going to go over putting in dimensions again. So to get to that tool palette, I think my tool palettes are off. So let me just type in tool palette. And there it should go up. Let's see. Oh, almost. Okay, tool palettes are back up. Now, for most of you, when you look at it, if you look over here on the words where it says tool palettes -design, most of you, this is the default you're going to have it starting off with. you have to hover kind of over the words, like this part of the window, like the label of it, right click and then pick document. That's going to load a whole nother set of tool palettes that we're going to use here. I'll kind of talk through quickly of them. Annotation, the one on the top, that's your text tools there. We're going to use that later on to label rooms. And then dimensions, that's what we're going to do next. Call outs, I've done this in other videos where we're using our elevation call tags. We're going to use our title rooms, things like that. But for today, we want our dimensions. Now, most of you should have linear already here. You might not have aligned. If you need to add it, what you're doing is double clicking on this window here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so here it is here. So if you don't have linear, you're going to hover over it and say add to tool palettes. If you don't have aligned, you're going to do the same. Mine are already there, but just follow along and add them. So the main one we're going to be using is the linear one. That's going to give us like straight left to right ones. Before you start, you want to double check your snaps. So make sure your snaps are on and you have endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, extension, perpendicular, and parallel. Those are the ones that you're going to need to have all this work nice and cleanly. You're also probably going to want to have ortho on. You're going to toggle this guy on and off as you need to, but snaps you want to have on because you want to be able to snap right into the corner of this room. So I'm going to start with the first dimension here. So there's my tool paths. I'm going to close this guy for a minute just so we have that out of the way. All right, there we go. Okay, so linear. Like I said, my brain likes to work from larger to smaller. So I'm going to zoom way in, and you want to be on the two green lines where the green lines intersect. The red is your lumber. So that's like your 2x4 or your 4x6 making the wall. This is the edge of your gypsum board, which finishes off the inside of your house. So that's the actual inside corner of your house. So you're going to click there and where those two green lines meet, zoom out, zoom way in over here. And then there's that corner right there. And then I'm going to then with my mouse, pull it up and kind of snap it about like here. So let it go. And there's put in the math for me. It's all set there. So now if I want to work on my smaller rooms, same idea. We're going to go over from here, that corner to here, bring that up. And again, now I'm going to bring it up about 2/3 of the way. Same thing over here. Next one, going to go like this and bring it over to here. And then stop there because I might take some time and do this a little bit differently as I come back down in, but I'm going to finish this part here. Now, before we go any farther, one of the tricks that we can do instead of going back and forth to tool palettes, first make sure on layers that you're on the G Anno Dims layer. So if you're not, scroll down. G means general, Anno means annotation, and then dim. So this is the layer that we need to have our dimensions on. So make sure you're on that layer. But if you go over to annotate way up here at the top, it's the third from the left. And then here's your dimension tabs up here too. So it'll be a little quicker to jump up and down from here than back and forth to the tool palettes. And a lot of us have a whole bunch of, other tabs open. So here's the linear one right here. It's that first one on the left. So I'm going to go up and back and forth up to there. So now I'm going to do the window. So I'm going to do window to corner to window. And remember, I'm doing this line that's right before that little rectangle. So I'm going to go up now about halfway up there. We're going to take the next one. I'm going to get from here to here. That's getting the whole window. So the whole like yellow area, basically. Now I'm doing from the window to the opening. Now for the door, we're doing actually the inside of that little rectangle because we're going to dimension what's the door opening, what's the width of our opening, because that's what's important for codes to know that it's at least 3 feet. So we're going to go from there to there and see it is 3 feet. And this is where if it's not, you're going to go back and check that. You might have closet doors and things like that that will be a little bit smaller. That's fine. But entry and exits into our home, it's best practice to have 3 feet now because then everybody can get in and out, whether they have a walker or something else that they need a little bit more space for. All right, so this is what this string is going to look like. I'm going to pause and just finish it up. Okay, so we've got this string finished up. Now, if you zoom in, you'll see some of the math for this is kind of whacked. So 6 inches, 6 13 of a 16th inch. No one's going to measure that for you. They're not going to do that in the real world. So one of the things we can do when we start off is type in units and make sure we're kind of defaulting to 1/2 inch. So I've already got mine set up. It's quirky. Sometimes it works and doesn't. So I have mine already set up. but it's not happy that way. So we're going to just say, okay, but if you have it here, change it to a 1/2 inch. Hopefully that'll clean things up in the future. So like I said, CAD's a little quirky on this. We'll do a bit more research and see if we can override this more. But the quickest way to fix all this is if you hover over this dimension here, you right click on any dimension. So you're going to right click now and then say select similar. And that's going to collect all of your dimensions in your drawing, except your angled ones, your linear ones. They have to be done separately because again, they're not similar. They're a different type. They're angled. So here's where they are now. Bring up your properties and you're going to scroll about 3/4 of the way down. So you're going to keep scrolling until you see primary units. Easiest thing to look for, honestly, is alternate units because it's one up above from it. So this is the precision. This is what's controlling all of these dimensions and the math that it's giving us. So you're going to click on where it says 1/16 and instead say 1/2 inch. A lot of times what I do is I just put all my dimensions in and then I like clean them all up when I'm done. You can do it that way. You can also use, if you go back to home, you can use match properties. So let me put one in now and see if we can get one that's kind of a little bit funky math for us. Let's see, I'll just do like this space right here. And oh yeah, so there's a good example. It's 8 feet 7 5/8. So if I want to match the properties of this set, meaning this set is already rounding to a 1/2 inch, I click on match properties, I click on this dimension, and then I click on that dimension. And if we scroll in, you can see now it's 8 feet 7 1/2 inches, which makes a lot more sense for somebody measuring this in the real world. All right, so that's one of the things we use to clean up our dimensions. The other thing we're going to do is, let me put one in quick right now. So I'm going to go back up to annotate. I'm going to get this little guy, put this here and here. So for example, oh, actually we'll bring him up a little farther just so you can see what it's doing. This one actually should be up on this line here. All right, that one reads okay, but see this 7 inch, now it's starting to get kind of crowded in there. Remember, these plans are going to be copied a lot, like photocopied. So the quality is going to diminish as people are making more copies and using them in the field and writing on them too. So you want this as easy and clear to read as possible. This is what we talk about in class too. Like think of yourself as a graphic designer. You're trying to give enough white space to read these numbers and make it so you can read these comfortably too. So that's getting a little crowded there. So we're going to click on that number. We're going to right click and you're going to come up dim text position. It's the third down from the top. And you're going to pick move with leader. And then if you kind of hover, actually you can have ortho on or off for this, but it's going to basically give you an extra line that's going to then point to that dimension. So I'll put mine here. So this is saying right here, that's 7 inches. You're going to use this in any part where numbers sort of overlap and get a little kind of quirky. I'm going to put one in here too as an example. So let me show you another thing we're going to do for best practices here. So this is the corner of my room. I'm going to go up to this little edge here. Now, again, a lot of you are going to have shapes that are not rectangles. So there's a couple things going on. So this guy's overlapping here. So I want to put it here so my numbers don't run into each other, or I want to put it over here. We can also do, let me put it, actually, let's see. Let me think of a spot where there's a good example. I'll pause for a second and pull one up. Okay, so my building doesn't really have a good example that shows where lines are going to be overlapping and crisscrossing, but a lot of folks in class did, because again, you have kind of more shapes coming off of yours. Like mine is pretty much a rectangle with this sticking out, but there a couple of you have other spots where you kind of have like wings coming on and off your house. So I sort of put this guy here to kind of show what that would look like. Pretend as if there was a wall coming up here and somehow this guy was kind of running into that dimension. So one of the things to notice with your dimensions is you have all these handles. So you can easily use this top handle to kind of move it back and forth, like left and right. But these are sort of the handles for like the feet of the dimension. So if I pull this over here, see how now there's a little gap in space. So you never want your lines overlapping each other. And so what you're always going to do is if they end up kind of getting stacked like that, you're going to pull that foot up to basically the next layer. So like if these guys, say, for example, this room, you have your windows and your doors, but this room actually went to say about here, right? So see how it's crossing right through that 4'9". It's gonna make it really hard to read. So we're gonna instead pull that little leg up to here. Now, one of the things is it's still kind of crossing over there. So again, if you had to clean this up some more, you would right click on this guy, dim text position, move with leader, and then move it like that. So that makes it clear, like if there were a wall here, that line's going to the wall, this line's going to this thing. You know, I've kind of just like morphed things around in my plan, but there was a lot of examples in class where that was happening. So again, this is just a really brief intro to doing dimensions. Remember that they're over here. Your angled one again is your for if you have anything like at a 45-degree angle or triangle. So I'll pause and set that up really quick so you can. All right, so pretend this is a shape of a room or part of your house over here in this like triangular setting. So we're going to, oops. All right, so here we go again. So back over tool palettes. You're going to get this aligned tool now. So same thing, you're going to zoom way in and get what's the interior wall. Zoom down to the other corner, get the interior wall. Even if you have ortho on, this is going to work to go. It's basically going to make a parallel dimension line to what your angled wall is. So if I zoom in, there it is there. Again, now it's not the crazy math. So we're going to click on match properties, click on the ones over here that are already rounded to a 1/2 inch, click on it, and now there's your number. So most of you are only going to need those two. There's a couple other options in terms of measuring circles and things like that, like the radii of curves areas. I don't think anybody has that in their first project, but again, that one's not too hard. I can show you that really quick with, we'll just draw a circle. So there's my circle there. If I get over here and pick the radius, basically it's going to ask me select the arc or circle. So you're going to click on that, and then I'm going to just left click, and that's giving me the radius of that circle. This will get important when you get into like designing things in the real world. You don't want to ask somebody to cut a countertop at radius 6 feet 4 1/4 inch. You're going to change that circle so it's just a 6-foot circle. Again, make things easy for people so they're not making mistakes in the field. All right, so this is our quick review of dimensioning. Again, they're over here in your tool palettes under document, under dimensions, or you can go up here to annotate and pick them here. But again, when you use annotate, make sure you're already on the right layer. You're not putting them on like your 0 layer. And that's kind of how you get going on them. And you're just going to work your way through. And we will sit with you in class and review them. And you're going to have a lot of practice to kind of streamline this too. All right. Thank you.